So the topic of conversation in Canada currently is the Canadian Revenue Agency. For my American friends, it's like the Canadian version of the IRS. They've been hacked. That's what everybody's been saying. IRS, or the CRA has been hacked. They've shutting down their web services. You can't get logged in. But that's not the whole story. That seems to be what the media likes to report about, but that's not what actually is happening. What occurred, and it appears it's been 2, possibly 3 different organized crime groups or hacker groups that have done it, but they went on the dark web and obtained a whole bunch of email addresses and passwords of Canadians. And they're doing what is called password stuffing. They took those email addresses and passwords and started trying to go to places that people may have accounts, like bank sites and credit card sites, Amazon, any place that would be of financial impact. And one of those would happen to be, especially during this time of COVID, government agencies that are overseeing financial assistance. So what can the hackers do if they are able to get logged in using your credentials at, say, the IRS in the States, or what's happening in Canada, the Canadian Revenue Agency? Well, if they get logged in as you, they could file a fake tax claim looking for refunds. They could fill out for HST, or they could fill out for the federal assistance and try to get that money. And of course, it's your username and password. So as far as the government's concerned, you got the money, right? So the hackers would get logged in as you and maybe start changing the address or change where the payment is going to, or the bank account. And that's what happened. That's how the CRA figured out something bad was happening, as they started getting a bunch of calls of, hey, I got notified that you guys deposited a bunch of money into a bank account. I don't have that bank account. What's going on? And they started looking at it. And that's how they discovered that, no, the CRA was not hacked. But people, and I've talked about this numerous times before, human nature is you tend to use the same email address, whether it be a work one or a home one. Typically, it's a work email address. And people use the same password or a variation of that password everywhere. They use the same thing at all the places. So if the hackers are able to get a username and password, so let's say LinkedIn gets hacked, or Facebook, or wherever, and they're able to harvest all these username and passwords, the bad guys take them, and then they start going around seeing where they can get into using that information, because they know human nature. They know the same thing I just told you. They know that most people are going to use the same email address and the same password or variation of that password, and now they can go run like the wind and see where they can get into, and then what havoc they can do, and what kind of return on their investment of time can they get. And it can be very profitable if they're able to get into these accounts and they're able to get these refunds issued to themselves. And if it happens to you, it can take forever to reclaim that and get that rolled back. Now, in the case of the Canadian Revenue Agency, they're saying they're going to work with people and try to make people whole again, realizing that it may not have been your fault, technically, although that's splitting hairs, because if it was your account that got compromised and you're not using good password hygiene, well, then it is kind of really your fault. But the CRA is saying, okay, we're going to try to work with people and make them whole. But the CRA was not hacked. The Canadian Revenue Agency was not hacked. It was poor password hygiene upon people using the same password at multiple sites that's allowed the bad guys to get in and pretend to be these people, these victims, sadly. And that's the case. So just wanted to set the record straight around the CRA hack that really wasn't a hack. Imposters on a very large scale. Yes, we could say that. There was a lot of impersonations going on. But the CRA was not hacked. Their systems were secure. Just a lot of people pretending to be someone that they weren't. And it's costing some big buckaroonies. And it's going to take a lot of time to kind of get this sorted. And I'm not even really sure how they're going to do that. How do you know if that username and password being entered is actually the person that it is? I don't know. Maybe they should introduce two-factor authentication, where you have to put in your email address, your password, and then a code from your phone. It adds an extra step, but the chances of a hacker having access to both your password and the code off your phone is not very likely, or at least lowers that risk an awful lot. So maybe that's something that the government might end up looking at, is implementing and enforcing two-factor authentication to try to secure these accounts. Anyways, thanks for joining me today on Scott on Security, and keep safe out there.